And a good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Interim Director at WEIU TV and Radio. My co-host is Mr. Daniel Jones.
Yes, Jeff. Thank you for having me once again.
Hey, you're doing great. Our guest today, return visit, Mr. Steve Rich. He's the Assistant Vice President for Advancement and Alumni Services, Director of Alumni Services, whatever you want to call him.
I work in the alumni office.
There you go.
Happy to be here. Look forward to it every
Appreciate
year.
you coming in, and we were hoping Amber to be here with you, but I guess Amber got called away. So, Steve, I guess the first thing we talk about right now, obviously, is COVID and how it is affecting alumni services, daily, weekly, and kind of your overall operations over there.
Sure. I mean, from the start, and alumni certainly, as we look at interaction with alumni, they're not as interested in face-to-face events. And we were just talking about an event, and before we came on air, that we had hosted in the Denver area, and one of your alumni, a former WEIU employee, is out there on the air and came to an event. That is not something alumni are looking for right now, but we have with the time that's available. And you mentioned Amber; she's spending a lot more time on social media, and our engagement through social media is going way up. So we're taking advantage of that opportunity and reaching out to people in other ways.
Are you using some of the Zoom and Google Talks and all that kind of stuff?
Not necessarily with alumni, and that was something we talked about early on. And we had polled alumni and found that there was limit. I think a lot of people were doing those things for work. And, we talked about just last week that if we would have said we're going to do something via Zoom, which we should have a year ago, people would have been like, oh, that's cool, that's neat, Now, a lot of people don't, alumni and the like, that is not something that they are necessarily interested in because they do that so much for work, or if they have kids, their children are doing that for school. Everyone really misses that face-to-face interaction. Now, having said that, and something that we have don't really have any details yet, we're just getting started, is working with either some of our alumni or maybe even some of our students on campus in hotel and restaurant management. They have the this is horrible. I'm drawing a blank. The restaurant over in Clem, which I am.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, I'm drawing a blank on it right now on the name. But maybe doing something with them for some recipes and letting them cook and showing people how to prepare it. And so, I've seen some of those where you can sort of watch on your iPad on the counter. And so we could tell people in advance, here are your supplies, here's your shopping list. We also have an alum who is, I guess he's a wine connoisseur, but also he helps with some bottling, some friends of his. He's retired now. And we thought about having him on there to talk about different types of wine and what to look for. So maybe some things like that, and they wouldn't have to be live. We could record them and put them out there if people wanted to go back and watch later. But if you and Dan are offering, we'll be happy to talk with you about what you...
Well, it's just funny because I tell everybody, before March, 12th, whatever the date was,
yeah.
Zoom was an old TV show on PBS.
Absolutely.
That's what my think of Zoom was.
Do you have any idea what he's talking about?
I think it aired a little tiny bit when I was younger.
It made a comeback. It did make a comeback, and then it didn't really stick like it did. But
if he's going to keep making us feel old, then we're going to...
Good questions on your mind, Dan?
He kind of answered one of my questions about the things you guys were doing to engage social media. Are there any other things besides what you mentioned that you guys have been doing?
We, one of the things that continues is our magazine, and that's something that, print, at least in our world, print is certainly not dead. People like print, so the Alumni Magazine is still something that alumni look forward to receiving. We get great feedback whenever that goes out. Social media, and just from a staffing standpoint, we probably didn't have as much time to devote to it previously, but now that is something that we have more time, more time and talent devoted to than we could before. So really trying to capitalize on that while we can.
Now, are you guys on travel restrictions right now, or how's that work? I mean,
yeah, we're on the same restrictions as everyone else, and then in the state of Illinois, certainly with limitations as to the number of people that can be present for events and activities, that would limit us as well. Two of the events that are incredibly popular, and we sell out every year we do them. And this past year we couldn't have them, as one is a Cardinals game. And that one of our alums, Dan, is a vice president with the St. Louis Cardinals, so he gives us a great deal for suites. And we get anywhere from 250 to 300 tickets and suites. It's all your food and drink included. That typically sells out well in advance, and we couldn't do that this year. And we also, being a Cubs fan, I got to get my plug in for Wrigley Field.
I'm a Cubs fan as well.
Cubs, Cardinals, and White Sox all in the playoffs. So
there you go. And so we usually do a Cubs game as well, and that will sell out for us. And we do a pregame at one of the establishments across the street. So those tend to be some of our larger events, and certainly, we all know that people aren't watching or aren't able to watch live for those sporting events. So beyond that, it's events around the region, the state, different parts. We don't travel extensively throughout the rest of the country, but occasionally we go somewhere else. We try to be smart. When it's cold outside, we go to warm places, but not this year.
The other thing that alumni is always involved with is homecoming. Lots of activities around homecoming.
Right.
Obviously, homecoming is going to be much different this fall at EIU. So I guess what part of homecoming will Alumni Services be a part of? And I know your awards are still there, and we'll talk about those individuals if we can.
Sure. Yes, absolutely the awards. That's something we discussed. The Alumni Association Board of Directors, who's responsible for selecting the award recipients. That's something that they felt was very important to. And when they made those decisions, we didn't exactly know what October was going to be like. But the thought was we don't want to miss an opportunity to recognize our alumni. Beyond that, our office typically, we put together the pregame, or one of the pregames, the Tent City outside of O'Brien before the football games, and that was certainly something with size restrictions and the like. We weren't able to do this year. The awards dinner, we have some reunions that take place over homecoming, and we did check what, one of those is the 50th reunion. And so if you think about people graduating 50 years later, most of them are, in their early 70s. We talked to some people, and it was unanimous. People said, no, we're good this year. And so what we're talking about is moving that to next year and putting the class of 1970 with the class of 71.
Makes sense, yeah.
And they're actually interested in that. And one of the things that we see, and I think all universities see, that's very different than high school, for example, where what year did you graduate? And well, that's where a lot of your friends, you grew up with them and you've known them all your life and you went to grade school with them. When you get to college, your relationships may be more aligned with your interests. So if you were in radio and TV, those are and it doesn't matter if you're a freshman and they're a senior, those are the people you connect with.
That makes sense, yeah.
If you're in Greek organizations, if you're involved in student government, if you're in a fraternity, sorority, those are a lot of things where people's interests align, and it's not really about a class year. And so that's something that we're looking forward to, actually putting 2 years together. We think that might spur some interest there.
Let's talk about some of your award winners for this fall, and I guess how will they do? Will they be given an award? Are they gonna do that virtually and talk about them? But I know Craig, is it Craig Coate?
Yes.
Good.
And that's a great question, Jeff. And if I had the answer, I would tell you. What we've talked with the recipients about, and they are all very, very understanding of this, is as of right now, and nothing is firm, no dates, but we're looking at doing something in the spring. We don't have a name associated with it or anything, but finding a great opportunity to bring them back to campus, and certainly not to get ahead of myself, but
COVID is over party.
Yeah, exactly. We'd like to think that's the case. Yeah. Certainly there's talk, and I don't think anything's finalized. There's talk of, we would have football maybe in the spring along with some other universities around the country. So maybe that's an opportunity. First of all, it's like football in the spring. Wow, maybe that'll just get people back.
I've heard rumors of a Sunday afternoon game for football.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah,
that could be interesting.
That would be nice.
I probably just got Rich Moser in trouble.
No, that could be. No, you didn't say a name. I didn't hear you say a name.
I think it's public knowledge now that they're thinking about
Sure.
maybe some Sunday.
No, that could be fun, and it would give somebody just something different to do. Now, the ones I did see, just in some early schedules, it's like, boy, we're talking about February games or whatever. I'm not so sure about that.
Maybe the later March games.
Yeah, we'll put we talked about the COVID. Let's put the bubble over the stadium. And but I didn't answer your question. That wasn't on purpose. We've talked about bringing them back, maybe having some type of reception. Certainly they wouldn't be riding in the parade or waving at people. Now, I shouldn't say they wouldn't be waving at people from the 50-yard line. Maybe they will be. And then, there was typically a dinner in their honor. But great group of people. Craig Koch, you mentioned. He is our two outstanding Young Alumni Award recipients. Both work for ad agencies, which was typically we have one of these recipients. This year the committee selected two, but they're both in the advertising, PR, marketing world. He is with HLK in St. Louis, and he just took that job maybe over the summer. Very recent change there, but he had been with Leo Burnett in the Chicago area, did very, very well. And then Lauren took a job with UTEC and then moved up. She's now Chief Operating Officer. Wow. And doing quite well, and they have offices in Naperville and Scottsdale.
It's Lauren Urban, if you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. And then a name that some people in the area may have seen and or be familiar with or even know him, Eric Combs. Eric is our distinguished educator this year, and he was the Illinois Music Teacher of the Year, actually Illinois Teacher of the Year, and just happens to be a music teacher, middle school at Richland County in Almy. So quite a bit of recognition and continuing that list of educators who got their start through our programs here at EIU, which are phenomenal, best in the state and some of the best in the Midwest. And we've had a number of Illinois Teacher of the Year award recipients. Mike Finkel was originally from Danville. Mike was a great guy. Unfortunately passed away earlier this year, so his award will be posthumous. But he had retired, was in the financial services industry, but very involved with Eastern, so he's receiving the Louis V. Hinken Alumni Service Award. Just really gave back of his time, talents, and treasure, and just somebody that I was proud to call a friend. Mike was just a really good guy. And then our distinguished alumni group, and we have 5 of those this year. One is Randy Bailey. Randy is in the healthcare software industry and has been just had a phenomenal career. And now there's a guy, if you ever need to fill a couple of hours with he lives in Scottsdale, but if we can get him back here, this guy is awesome. And he said that he's got a great story that when he was ready to graduate and he had a couple of job offers, well, first he had to beg a professor to change a grade, is what he tells. And so he got a degree in accounting, and he said he could go back towards home and work in accounting, or he could go take a sales job, which he knew nothing about. And the guy's a natural salesman. He has just had a phenomenal career. So really done well there. Done some other things as well, but everything related to technology. So, and also hosts some alumni events at his home for us out there. Absolutely. Great guy. Melissa Conyers-Irvin, and Melissa is the treasurer for the city of Chicago.
That's all?
That's all. That's all.
That's all.
It's interesting. And one of our, I believe, 2 alumni magazines ago, we did a cover story, and she was our cover photo. Great photo with the city of Chicago flag in the background. But she's the treasurer for the city of Chicago, and another one of our alums is the chief financial officer for Washington, D.C., for the District of Columbia.
Oh, wow.
And so 2 of the largest city budgets in our country, and we have EIU alumni leading those and directing those efforts. So Melissa's also a former state rep from the Chicagoland area, and just been connected, involved, and is a very proud EIU grad. Judy Ethel. Judy has been involved for a number of years. Really made a name for herself. Again, she's an accountant, but made her name for herself with investment firms and the like, and worked with a number of companies who operate with billions of dollars.
Wow.
And just again very involved. She's also a past recipient of the Louis V. Hinken Alumni Service Award. We don't see a lot of people receive 2 awards, but she did, and certainly deserving of both. Steve Ferguson is currently Vice President of the Industrial Power Systems Division for Caterpillar. And CAT's one of those areas, too, that we've had so many alumni go and hold senior leadership positions with Caterpillar. Just makes you wonder what it is. I mean, certainly wonderful programs here, but he, like many others, got hired with CAT for his first job and rose up to become a VP for them. Lives down in Texas, I believe, outside of the Dallas area now. And then Cam Simpson. Cam is an award-winning journalist, currently with Bloomberg Business Week and Bloomberg News, and he's based in London. He's covered the Middle East. He's been with the Wall Street Journal, Chicago Tribune, and I believe just recently wrote a book as well, but has received just a number of awards for his efforts and his work.
Sounds like a pretty good group this year.
It is. It's a fantastic group, and so we'll have to wait. Maybe we can have a Zoom social hour with them, and I'll have a toast, but we'll have to take that time change for London into account. But hopefully we can get them all on campus with us in the spring sometime.
When you when COVID hit in March, and then as you've adjusted everything, what did your staff and how did you guys react? And just take us back to that time, and then kind of fast forward now to how we've kind of are living with it, unfortunately.
First of all, our staff did a phenomenal job, and I've told anyone who would listen that I know, and certainly for some areas, depending on what your job is, it can be very challenging to work remotely. I know for me personally, just I guess the way my head's screwed on, the idea of sitting at home all day and looking at a computer, and I just couldn't have done that. So, our office, the alumni offices, are just across the street from the main part of campus on 4th Street, and so I came in every day. And, it was, there was no one else around for the most part, and then some other people started coming in, but, even our folks who in our office who you would think, well, wow, that job is going to be difficult to do remotely because of X, was not an issue for any of our folks. They just did a great job. I can't say enough about the work they did, and they continue to do certainly. But during those challenging times, and then coming back, I think we were all certainly happy to see one another. We had plenty of Zoom calls, Microsoft Teams calls, and whatever else we could work in there. The occasional real phone call, which those are becoming less frequent now than they used to. So. Really, a lot of the things that we do in our office, it's maintaining contact with our alumni, and I say that in the most basic sense that, we're tracking their addresses and their emails and their employment and all those things. Generally would be a full-time job for many people. We have one person doing that, and she's got some students that help her, Lisa Woltman, and we have 116,000 living alumni, and so that's a large group of people to try to keep track of, plus other friends of EIU donors who maybe don't have a degree. So we have more than 150,000 records that are active at any given time. The events I mentioned, that's something that since we weren't putting events together, Amber's been spending more time with social media, with some other types of outreach. We've been surveying our alumni a little more to ask them what they're interested in. So in that regard, it's been nice to allow us to step back and say, okay, this is what we have been doing. What are we going to do going forward? And I will say something too, that one of the benefits, something that I really got a lot out of during that time, was I've known a lot of my peers, my counterparts at the other Illinois public institutions for a long time. One of them is actually an EIU grad herself, and I knew her slightly as an undergrad. But we started connecting, and we had bi-weekly Zoom calls. And so it was interesting as we all talked about, well, these are our challenges. Those were the same challenges that the other schools were facing. It didn't matter
so
who
you
you
share
were.
some ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And something they shared was the Zoom activities. Limited enthusiasm for those at most places. Now I'm sure it depends on, if we could get Jimmy Garoppolo on a Zoom call, and I'm just pulling that name out of the air, maybe that would be different. I mean, the opportunity to have a good-looking young face on the screen there. And I would have Jimmy with me, of course, me being the good-looking young face. Just wanted, in case you missed that joke, I had to make sure I pointed that out. Okay. Young is. My wife said I have a great face for radio, so I think that was a compliment. But and then Matt Williams in our office. Matt does our magazine and works on our annual fund, so those are things that certainly continued. We did scale back, and there was a lot of discussion campus-wide. We scaled back our fundraising operations a little bit, and a lot of that had to do with uncertainty. And just when this was new, and you said going back to March and April and May, we looked at headlines, or we turned on the radio and turned on the TV, and we heard about unemployment. We heard about these challenges, and there was just a thought that, wow, maybe now's not the right time, and we certainly don't want to offend anyone, but we've actually gone back now and have been reaching out to our alums, and their response has been fantastic as far as support for our...
PBS kind of did something similar. They were worried, but then they realized that people like normalcy, and so if you go back doing what we're always doing, it gives people a little bit of comfort.
Absolutely, and then just get a plug in for Spencer Sharp, who's another member of our staff, originally from Mattoon, but he runs our reports and with that data, and so there's never been through all of this, there were still people even off campus wanting data, wanting reports for their responsibilities. So, but you're right. I think normalcy is something that many people desire right now. And, I'm just excited as we socially distance to sit here without a mask on.
Yeah, nice, isn't it?
And it took time to get used to. And I guess I will say that, first of all, yes, it took time to get used to, but I do it. And it's just habit now. And I try to keep one on my desk. I keep one in my truck. Sometimes I keep one in my pocket just in case. And there, every once in a while, be with my wife somewhere, and we'll hop out of the car, and she'll say, "Mask." It's like, okay, got it. Sorry. But overall, I think I've done a reasonably good job of trying to get used to that. So, nothing I want to do the rest of my life.
Anything on your mind, Daniel?
I kind of wanted to gear towards more. I heard you guys do a lot of fundraising. So could you tell us a little bit about some of your fundraising efforts?
Sure, and we work closely. We're the Alumni Office, Alumni Services, is part of the University Advancement Division under Ken Wetstein, our Vice President for University Advancement. He joined us, he's an alum himself, but came back to Eastern last July. And they're based at Neil Welcome Center, just on the outside of town as you come in from Mattoon. The development office and foundation offices are out there as well. And so not to bore you with this, but the development office, our development directors tend to work with major gifts and, a level of an endowment. So, we'll give you a little time, Dan, maybe a year or two before we ask you for the $25,000 gift. But we can create that endowed scholarship, which will be there forever for those students who work at WEIU. And those start at $25,000. And so that's quite often where a lot of our major gift work starts there. The annual fund is housed in our office. I should mention the foundation. They're the ones who manage those gifts. They make sure they're invested properly. They make sure that the funds are distributed to the students or departments or colleges or whatever the case may be. And then in our office, we work with alumni on some of those, just the annual fund level gift. And that could be an alum who contributes $25 every year, and we appreciate that. And that could be someone who contributes a few thousand every year. And so those are done through direct mail, which that is still the most, and it surprises me, still the most popular way for alumni to give. They like to get something in the mail in their hands, and they'll send a check back in. We are actually trying to do more with online giving and looking at some things there, thinking that might, as I look at there's one person younger than the others here in the room, Jeff, and it's as I look at the younger person in the room, just thinking that maybe giving by text or some other things technology might be more appealing to you than it would be some other folks.
I actually like mail.
Do you? Okay, good.
I get excited whenever I have something in my mailbox.
I'm going to put a note down to after Dan graduates, send him lots of mail.
You've been flagged. But if it isn't broke, don't fix it. I mean, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, if it's working, I understand.
And then our calling, and so calling alumni, and that's something that certainly, and I think across the country, there's been a change with that. And one of the things different today than it was now. Well, like caller ID's been around for quite a while. That would be. That's when it would pop up on your phone at home. That's that thing, Dan, that's connected with the wire to the wall. I don't know if you've seen
We still
one
got
before.
one here.
Okay, there you go.
You have to have one, yeah.
But with and I'm guilty of this myself. If my cell phone, it vibrates, it rings, and I look and I don't know the number, and it just has maybe a town associated with it, I'm not answering that. And I think that's common with a lot of people, and we're finding certainly, it used to be, I mentioned our data earlier, that with that data, we had someone's, and we still do a lot of these, but in our customer relationship management system, Banner Advancement, that we would have their home phone number, their work phone number, their cell number, whatever else it might be. Now so many people they're going with one number, and so it's that cell phone, they don't have the home phone. But that is certainly something that is, I would say, as far as returns, direct mail is number one for us. That's where we get for annual fund level gifts. Phone is number two, and then e-solicitations, whether that's through email or through other technologies, those would be third. But direct mail is still the way to go. And then for major gifts, those are done almost exclusively, just the overwhelming majority, through personal relationships, and just taking time and working with those individuals to help them with their interest in philanthropy and helping them find a way to support students or their alma mater or a specific areas of EIU as it might be.
What if an alum calls you looking for another alum? What are the rules, and can you help them, or like?
What we typically do when members of the Alumni Association are interested in that, we have a Find a Friend program. Now, as you might imagine, we could stay very busy if we just did that all the time. And so what we do is, now, one of the wonderful things about today is we were talking about technology. If I were looking for an old friend, the first thing I would do is pull out my phone and just start Googling their name and whatever, and see if I could find them. But we do get those calls or emails, and what we typically do is we will send. So let's say Dan is trying to find you, Jeff. We will get Dan's information, and we will send that to you, and we will allow you to make the decision if you want to contact Dan.
Okay, that makes sense.
More often than
Got a little
not.
safety net in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've had people tell us why they're reaching, and we certainly don't ask that, but this will not surprise you at all. But people say, I'm trying to reach, he was an old boyfriend, she was an old girlfriend.
Aww.
Those are some of the most common reasons. So so we don't want to. Well, you could probably Google and find a phone number or something. We don't want to be the reason. Yeah, you understand.
You said earlier, how many living alums are there?
About 116,000 living alumni.
And then there's another 30 or 40,000 on top who've given over the years that you stay in touch with.
Yeah, those are non-EIU grads who have given at some point. That may be something we have a number of, especially in this area, a number of non-EIU grads who give on an annual basis, and certainly you see that with WEIU. Yeah. And as I'm looking up here behind me at the the records and the Adopt-A-Wad, and wow, what's that name up there with 13,000 right in the center?
You like that?
Oh wait, that's my name.
Yes,
Never mind.
You were the one who got us to that goal. I was we do appreciate that.
So. Okay, Dan, that's the other way that gifts, we were on a Zoom call last week, a Teams call, as a matter of fact, and Juan DeKay was talking about how you were very close to.
And we were like $82 away from 13,000.
And I said, I'll do it. So.
Thank you very much for the donation.
Oh, absolutely. No, it was kind of fun to be the person that I'll put you there.
And it was really we were nervous going into it with
sure,
COVID
absolutely.
Year, and it was our second best fundraising drive ever.
That's amazing, isn't it?
In a COVID year, so I almost think it as being the best.
Well, we also think about it in terms of a lot of people are stuck in their homes, and so sometimes it's like, hey, I got some mail, as Dan was saying. It's like I got some mail. Wow, I can send some money to support some students at EIU. So.
One last question real quick. We're about out of time. The logo, is the logo making Easter money? Are you involved in that? I know you...
It does. That's one of my responsibilities with trademark licensing. I oversee that. And so anytime something is sold with a logo, with Eastern's name, with any image that's related to Eastern, Eastern owns its name, as any university or institution would, or business. And so anytime something is sold, there's a percentage of those sales that come back to Eastern. And some of those go to athletics, which makes sense. And some of that goes to the financial aid office, where they're distributed to students throughout campus.
We are out of time, Mr. Rich.
I've enjoyed it as always.
Thank you very much. We'll be back next week.